Welcome back to PM Express. My name is Stephen Henty and I'm here with Kobe Echiampong, who is Deputy Interior Minister, and Mr. Palmer Detti, who is the Director of Public Affairs at the Ghana Immigration Service. Mr. Echiampong, if consistently a country accuses its neighbor of assisting, dissidents through this means, what does it mean for the relationship between that country and us?
Well, as far as we are concerned, there is a need to go beyond the rhetoric. That is why Ghana has issued a statement indicating that it is prepared to work with Ivorian authorities to investigate this matter. Because at the end of the day, that is what has to be done anyway. Let's do a joint investigation and come to the conclusion so that when you think you have the facts on your side, you can then continue to make that assertion. Because a country that is obviously guilty will not engage in any kind of investigation. A country that is not guilty will want to see the bottom of it. Because at the end of the day, you damage the reputation of a country with these incessant allegations that obviously have no basis in fact. So it is important that they accede to our request for a joint investigation to be carried out. That will give us a better understanding of what is happening. But I still stick by that point that it's part of the internal upheavals that are going on.
And they should be looking inward for a solution to this problem.
Ghana has passed this stage before, and that is why we have a better understanding of what is going on. In the early days of the PNDC revolution, when there were dissident attacks every now and then, we went through those same upheavals because there were a couple of Ghanaian dissidents who were domiciled in La Côte d'Ivoire. And every now and then, state security apparatus heard the boys were coming, the boys were coming. The boys never came until one particular time. But even before they did, actionable intelligence enabled the government to basically meet those people at the border fronts. I'm talking about Hali Dijiwa's June 19 thing. Intelligence was guided. Intelligence was right on the money that these guys were coming through these points. And these people were apprehended, So it is what they are going through now. That is their phase that they are going through. Unfortunately, they are not locating their prison within the confines of their country, but they are tending to look at it from outside because, one, a lot of people headed into Ghana at the outbreak of the war. And therefore, it is only proper for them to assume that a lot of these people are coming from within Ghana. But, marshalling an armed force in a neighboring country to go and attack another country is something that will not come to security notice. I have a very serious problem with that. It will definitely come to security. How are you going to ferry the arms across the frontiers without our security people noticing it? Granted, they are unapproved border points, but we have border patrol units who are stationed at these places every night and then watching what is going on. And intelligence is also guided as to your movement, especially when it has to do with arms. You understand? So I would wish the Ivorian authorities will move from this position and look within their country and see what is going on. The country is not at peace because the events that led to the Ouattara government coming into power have not completely festered off. They are not off. People still think they have a right to do what they are doing. And as long as these people harbor that kind of mindset, these things will continue to happen.
And what would you say Ghana has done so far when it comes to investigations or putting in place measures to protect its frontiers to ensure that such things are really, really not happening?
Well, there are a lot that the country has done. I mean, we have an apex body called the National Security Secretariat that brings in all the security heads and agencies. These guys meet in the JVC meetings every Tuesday and then deliberate on a wide range of issues that affect the country's security. I mean, these are things that would always be discussed, and I sit in my office and read reports from almost every security agency detailing what is happening everywhere. And once you have this information, it's important that you crystallize them, prioritize them into what has to be acted on, and look at the way forward from those things. And therefore, it is necessary to say that we are looking at things from a proper point of view, not based on hearsay.
Mr. Palmer Detti, I mentioned earlier, I asked whether you were worried that such attacks could be coming to you. Are you bracing yourself up in any way for possible attacks like these?
We have increased the number of patrols we conduct on a daily basis because, like I said, anytime a border is closed, I mean, out of desperation, people want to use unapproved routes. So we've increased the numbers. I know with Deputy Minister here, very soon we'll be armed. then we can be absolutely confident that we could deal with any attacks. But I said there's always a backup.
Yeah,
the police are behind us. The armed forces are also not too far from Melubo. So if it gets to that stage, I'm sure we would have enough support to deal with it. But like I said, the relationship between the Ghanaian officials on the border and the Ivorians is cordial. Very cordial. They sometimes move over to our end. We sometimes move over to their end. And I'll say that amongst us is, in fact, when they closed the border, for them, if they had their own way, they would open it. But this is information coming in from the center, so they had nothing to do. So I think that we don't find them as a threat. We don't find the officials on the other side as a threat. We think that we can count on that relationship we have. But where we think that relationship has been put aside and there's a certain aggression coming from them, I think we have equal force to deal with it.
We earlier had reports that several people were stranded at the border, including a corpse. How was this handled?
We have on our records 538 persons crossing the border yesterday. And I think for those who were really desperate to cross, all of them have crossed the border. So we do not have any crisis today. Most of them went yesterday. And for those who did not know, by now are aware that the borders have been closed and they cannot cross. When borders are closed everywhere in this world, people are inconvenienced. But countries are sovereign and they choose to open their borders when they want and they choose to close it when they also wish. So you can only endure. It's only when nationals of a neighboring country are threatened and the borders are still closed that there will be cause to ask what's going on. But if you don't have that kind of situation where your nationals are under attack and yet the borders have been closed.
So those who are stranded are at both sides, right?
Yes.
Both at the
now you have
Ivorian
a
side and
few
the Ghana
stranded
side.
because with that window, most people had crossed. So
Yeah.
we don't have a really bad
So
situation.
you really have not a large number to manage.
No, we don't have large numbers to
Right.
manage.
So earlier you mentioned that the deputy minister could assist the immigration service to be armed. I mean, how would this help your work any better than what you're already doing?
We think that arms also deter. Most of our neighbors are armed. And we think that when we are also armed, it would deter. Apart from that, you sometimes engage criminals who are armed. And these are persons who want to, as saboteurs, they are trying to smuggle things across. And they know what they are doing. And
But the immigration service trains with firearms.
Yes.
When you're trained,
Our
you're
border
trained
patrol
with
units,
firearms.
yes.
They are armed.
But you're not provided
they are
with
trained by the
guns.
military. So there are two schools of thought. There's a legislation. There's those who believe that we have a legislation giving us the mandate and authority to wield arms. Others also think that it comes with the kind of job we are doing, and it's being worked on. So I believe in due course, personnel will be armed, and I think that our neighbors will also see us and say, "Hey, the officials on the other side are also."
Is it a
ready to
normal
deal with.
practice to have one side closed, the other side open?
Once one side has closed, the other side can function because it's arrival and departures. So if you try to depart a person, where is he going to when the other side is closed? So when one side is closed, basically your side has also been closed.
Mr. Champon, let's talk about internal security in general in Ghana during this period. What would be your recommendation to, maybe I should say advice to citizens in this crucial period when we have 3 months to elections and then we have Cote d'Ivoire breathing down our necks with such allegations? How should everybody be handling this?
Well, it is important for people to still go about their normal duties as they are. You know, when you heighten tension in the country, it creates a panic situation. That's not what you need at this time of the day. Because panic situations do not lend themselves to people thinking clearly. Panic situations lead people to think in a very haphazard manner. And that is very counterproductive. When you have a level-headed person analyzing things from a normal point of view, it's easier to deal with such a person. But what I would also add is that, look, I've seen this in this country, that people are not clearly very observant. You know, that's one problem we have in this country. If anything happens around here, you see a lot of people going together to see what has happened. But when you ask them simple questions, what happened? They cannot tell you exactly what happened. They just go as onlookers, but they don't take cognizance of the fact that this thing was here, but it is not here, or this car started from here, but has ended up here. They just go to see for it. In other jurisdictions, people will give you accurate details, can even describe 5, 6 people, the clothes they wear, what they were doing in a very good time, to enable you to get a broader perspective. Where if you're held by closed circuit cameras, you can just go to the cameras and go on the information that has been given you, and you can pick people up. You know, when the riots broke out in Britain last year or last 2 years, a lot of people didn't know that they were being watched on TV at home by their own parents and relatives. And it's their own parents and relatives who gave them up, because they knew the clothes and the shoes they were wearing and engaging in this kind of stuff. They gave that information to the British police for them to be able to effect those things with the aid of closed circuit cameras. So Ghanaians need to be very, very, very observant. You know, I have a knack. I can, if I see a face once and I can always remember it, you know, anywhere else. It's something like intuition to me. And I think people should develop that kind of habit, because it helps to be able to be secure about your own surroundings. I can easily pick things that are awkward the moment I enter my office. I left this thing here last night, it's moved out of place. I have that kind of intuition. And that is how you need to also attune yourself, so that you are very abreast with what is happening around you. Because look, the whole point about security is having the knack to observe, so that you can take proactive action. Other than that, you're always caught pants down.
So the 3 men who were arrested by the police, are they linked to the attacks in Cote d'Ivoire?
Well, the police is still investigating. They are still investigating that matter. But for me, what is important is that fact that these people have been nabbed. You know, if they had not been nabbed and ended up in Cote d'Ivoire, then Cote d'Ivoire would have had a strong case that these people came. They could have traced where they bought their weapons and entered Ivory Coast with it. But this shows that our security agencies are on top of their game. And once an actionable intelligence came through, they followed through with it and nabbed the people. And that for me is the basic thing about intelligence and security, ability to be proactive on such issues. The Nigerians are facing all these problems because sometimes the intelligence is simply not there. They have to do what we call it, trial and error situations. That submits the situation and aggravates it further. You understand? With time, you started using a lot of human intelligence, and now they are picking up things faster. Now you are seeing, today I'm hearing they are making a whole lot of arrests with the Boko Haram, and it's lowering the temperatures down a little bit for them. It's very important that you gather your human intelligence very carefully.
So beyond these things, beyond the arrest, beyond the meetings you've had with security officers in Cote d'Ivoire, what else is the government of Ghana doing diplomatically to resolve this problem?
Well, what you have to do diplomatically is basically what we have said. Let us do a joint investigation. You know, you are accusing me. I'm saying, no, this is not what has happened. I'm not involved. What is best than both of us coming together to say, okay, let us look at what happened. Let's gather the facts surrounding. Of course, we all have intelligence agencies. So let's put all the information that we have together and let's strike the things that add up out and see what the results will be. It's important that we do that. And since we always share intelligence across our borders, it's important that we do that exercise, because at the end of the day, it's union to the benefit of both Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
And that is yielding results, you would say?
Of course.
Because these accusations are still flying about.
I will not pay attention to these accusations because the Cote d'Ivoire intelligence establishment or their national security establishment know that the Ghanaians cooperate with them on a daily basis. Look, it took the effort of Ghana to get those guys in the Gbagbo regime who had fled, especially, was it the Speaker of the National Assembly, who had to be present before Alassane Ouattara had to be sworn in. He had to be present to effect that. It took our national security to get him from here, put him on a plane, take him to Cote d'Ivoire, for him to go and execute attacks and bring him back. That is collaboration. These are some of the things that go on without the public knowing, but that is how close we cooperate. Gbagbo could not have been present without that particular person going to Cote d'Ivoire to perform his function. And we made that possible for him.
we shouldn't be worried. You sound very calm and confident that this is under control, that perhaps all the hue and cry is media agitation.
Of course, you can understand where the media will agitate. It does that for a number of reasons. I think from the strict point of security, this is not one of those things that the media can agitate and get away with it, because the facts would not support the kind of agitation that I'm seeing.
And Mr. Palmer-Derty, you're confident that we are in safe hands here in Ghana. We shouldn't be worried.
Before I respond to that, I just wanted to add something to what the minister said about our sense of observation. In my career as an immigration officer, I have noticed that most of the time when we get tip-offs, it comes from foreigners.
No Ghanaians.
The only time we get tip-offs from Ghanaians are when somebody feels aggrieved.
And then goes to tell on the other.
Yes,
or bitter.
You're bitter. And then they come and say, listen, there's this white man here or there's this person here.
That's true.
You should pick the person up. But serious intelligence comes most of the time from expats. And I don't know whether it's a cultural thing. But I think that when it comes to our borders, aside this particular incident, we also know that it is a very important year for us as a country. And our officers on the borders have been asked to be alert, to be more professional in what they do, take their work extremely seriously, not to lose our guard, because it's only during these times when there's this perceived tension, etc., some may want to take advantage of. So our officers are always alert, and I believe with other security services, we share the same, CITREPs, and we are also alerted by the same body, National Security. National Security tells you that get your guys on the ground, and we're on the ground.
Is the Immigration Service part of the border security?
Yes.
Yes. And what have you picked up on your patrols of the unapproved routes? You did mention earlier that you've increased your patrol presence both at the approved routes and the unapproved routes. What have you come across so far?
When you're on patrols on unapproved routes, some communities also, you find communities along those unapproved routes, and intelligence from the community suggests to us that those who had used those routes in the past have stopped using the routes because of our men stationed at those vantage points. So we think that our presence alone deters people from using those routes. If you have a few incidents of smuggling on the Western Corridor, but it's not as rampant as you would have where we didn't have a border patrol unit and other security services along those unapproved routes. But I'll say the situation has improved greatly.
The situation, you heard, has improved greatly. We'll take a short break and we'll return for more. You can send us your texts and comments on our Facebook call and by text 1760. We'll be waiting for them and we'll read them live on the program. We'll be right back.